This legislation tonight, if I had one word to describe it, would be opportunity, with its investments in education and health care as a continuation of the president's budget. We all know, and it's been said over and over again, that our economy needs something new, a jolt.
A jolt. So what's coming? That was Speaker Nancy Pelosi just moments after the historic health overhaul bill cleared the House. She called it, as you saw there, a moment of great opportunity. The president reportedly said during all of this that he needed to win health care to salvage his agenda. So that raises the question, what on the agenda can we expect next? Maria Cardona was a senior advisor to Senator Hillary Clinton. She's also a former communications director for the DNC. And Jason Rose with us. He is a former advisor to Mitt Romney, as well as a GOP campaign consultant. Welcome. Good to have both of you here. In the words of the Vice President, or some of the words of the Vice President, this is a big bleeping deal. This is a big deal. So now you got this in your back pocket, Maria Cardona, as a Democrat, and what do you do next? You sort of like, you know, looking at the things in front of you, which one are you going to grab first and try to get through?
Well, I think that we absolutely take advantage of the momentum that exists, of the excitement across the country that this big battle on health care has been won. And we're going to focus on jobs, on the economy, and on financial regulation to start with. I would say a pivot, except for jobs and the economy, is something that this administration has actually been focused on since Obama came into office. There is already a jobs bill, but clearly it is the #1 priority for Americans. So you're going to see the president continue to talk about this and continue to focus on what America's middle-class families and working-class families and small businesses need.
All right. Well, Jason, Republicans fought very, very hard against this bill, but they lost. And now the feeling, you know, seems to be shifting, at least for the moment, in terms of who's got the momentum and who has the ball and who can run with it right now in Washington. What would you advise the GOP in terms of, you know, their posture as they wait for some big financial reforms? I think that's going to be top of the list here. What do they do next?
You know, it is a concern, I think, on the Republican side, and I don't think we should be celebrating too much the passage of this bill thinking it's going to be a boon. As I wrote on the flashreport.org earlier in the week, you know, a win is quite a tonic regardless of the popularity of the legislation. And the White House now and leaders in Congress get to talk about, you know, the benefits to the American people of the bill, or at least perceived benefits, without them feeling any of the pain, since none of it will be implemented for some time. But now we roll in with Democrats, you know, having some momentum. Financial regulatory reform is not going to be an easy thing for Republicans to oppose, because after what we've seen over the last couple years in the markets and with the recession, you know, anything that comes short of regulation is probably perceived as reckless. You also have immigration reform that, you know, we could be a big wedge within the Republican Party between kind of the Chamber of Commerce crowd and the activist crowd. And then you have cap and trade that, you know, will be very controversial, but you know, would be one
so what
that
do Republicans do? I mean, you know, they've been called the party of no throughout this process. And if healthcare had gone down, they could have claimed a victory, but it didn't. You know, it passed. And, you know, just quickly, Jason, then I want to get back to Maria.
I'm comfortable with being the party of no if we're saying no to bad things. The problem is people are frustrated by gridlock, and the Democrats now look like they're getting things done, and I'm concerned about that.
Yeah, let's talk, Maria, this financial regulation bill is something that I've been looking at fairly closely. And you have Chris Dodd and Barney Frank, who many people think were very instrumental in causing the first economic crisis in this country by looking the other way from Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. And now they're in charge of the financial regulations that we're going to be under?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that they actually have a lot of credibility in this area, because obviously, depending on who you talk to, there's a lot of people who believe that Democrats were actually the ones who were trying to keep this from happening, and that it was Republicans in the last 15 years that turned away from regulations that are badly needed. And that is what Democrats are going to focus on now. And I agree with Jason. It's going to be very tough for Republicans to oppose this, because Americans really feel that Wall Street was the one who caused this, and they have not felt any pain in the way that working-class families and middle-class families have. And that's what Democrats are going to focus on. I hope Republicans join us in this, but if they don't at their peril.
You know, you could feel it overnight. And I watched an interview that Steny Hoyer did, Jason, and he said, you know what? I don't think we're going to lose a whole lot of seats over this. And that momentum for Republicans has been seriously challenged in what they thought they were heading into November with because of this, don't you think?
Well, if I were him, I wouldn't be too cocky, and I would advise my brethren on the Republican side not to be too cocky. You know, we're talking about 7 or 8 months until the election, which is many, many lifetimes. But, I mean, you look across the board. I mean, there are races on the map now that were never even conceived of. I mean, look at Patty Murray. If Dino Rossi were to run against her up in Washington State, a very blue state, and we're competitive there. Mark Kirk in Illinois. On the Senate races, obviously, but this map is expanded, and the Democrats have got to play a lot more defense, and we do have, I think, the momentum going in right now, but I just don't want to take it for granted.
All right, we're going to watch those midterm races very closely and the poll numbers and how they shift. I think we're going to see a little bit of shift in some of those numbers as a result of this health care passage in D.C., but we will see, and it's always good to see both of you. Jason, thank you very much. Maria, thank you very much.
Thank you,
We'll see you
Martha.
both soon.